What's up, everybody? Welcome to the recap video for Fight Island 7, and what a card it was to start off the year. I was really impressed with it. And guys, just a heads up, we got two more cards coming up this week. One is going to be on Wednesday, the other one's going to be on Saturday. I really do not know if I have time to do prediction videos as well as recaps for the two upcoming fights, the one on Wednesday or Saturday. So if I don't have time to do them, the one I'm going to do is the one on Saturday. So if you don't see a video from me on Wednesday, it's not because I'm not doing videos anymore. It's just because I'm skipping that one and we're going to go to Saturday. It's just the way it is, guys. I don't have time to do 3 videos in 1 week. I put a lot of time and effort into the actual editing portion. Of course, that stuff will speed up as I figure out all my graphics and kind of get everything laid out. And maybe down the line in the future I could worry about that stuff, but for now I just want to let you guys know that yeah, I probably will miss Wednesday's card. But yeah, that being said, I just want to give a quick thank you to everybody who subscribed so far. You know, we had 30 subscribers and we're working our way to 100. That's my first goal. So for those of you who have taken the chance and the opportunity to help me out and subscribe and like the videos and all that jazz, even the odd dislike that I get for whatever reason, I appreciate those because that's just interaction on my page. And you know, whether you like the videos or not doesn't really affect me. But I appreciate it either way. So that being said, we're going to get into it. We're going to start with Kilburn versus Lingo. You know, this was a prediction I got correctly. It was the first prediction of the night. I predicted Lingo would win. It started out as expected. You know, Kilburn did start looking for grappling and the takedowns as I predicted while he was getting rocked early. Lingo may have pushed too much output in the first round, which was kind of my concern when that entire portion of the event took place. Like, he literally started to take out Kilburn instead of pick and choose his shots. Although he was being responsible a little bit with it, picking his punches, he was kind of overexerting a little bit in my mind. In the second, we saw Kilburn come back and almost turn around the fight. As the fight continued, it seemed to get more competitive, and Kilburn did a good job of getting out of that first round rock and ending strong in the second half of the fight. Lingo took it to the end, but you know, that was a great first fight, and we started the card off with a great fight. And I think I actually got that prediction completely correct. I believe I said Lingo by decision. So you can quote me on that, but you can go check out the previous prediction that I did for this card if you had not already seen it. Next up, we had Moras versus Melo. This already I had said no bet on this one and that it could go either way. I chose Moras, but I did say that the reason why I chose her was because we're from the same neck of the woods. We're both from BC. I live in Vancouver. She is originally, I believe, from Kelowna, which is a city that's 4 hours away from where I live. So props to Sarah Moras. But man, she was throwing jabs into the air. Like, what was she trying to punch? Molecules? Like, I don't understand what she was doing. And it's like, there are these fighters who maybe their coaches tell them just stay active, push her, push the pace. But instead of actually pushing the pace and staying active like a Max Holloway would, they push the pace by just throwing jabs and feints and strikes in the air that aren't really doing anything. And I bet you Sarah Moras put more output in that fight, but definitely scored a lot less. This goes back to my original point. As I said, you could go watch the prediction video that I did last. I did say that she kind of never gets better. She's always just the same skilled fighter, and she doesn't really bring a lot to the table. I was actually really unimpressed with Moras this time around. Not that I'm super impressed by her either way, but Melo herself, like, she wasn't doing much either. And I feel like the only reason why she won the fight was because Moras just kept punching the air. That's about it. Had she done those constant jabs and at least like landed 3/4 of them, or you know, like threw them and hit Melo, then okay, she actually may have won the fight in that case. I feel like in this fight, Moras shot herself in the foot. It makes sense to throw 1 or 2 of those air shots every now and then just to be a little unpredictable and, you know, keep Melo at bay. But I feel like if we actually go back and count her strikes landed versus her strikes thrown into the air totally outweigh her strikes landed. It's like she was shadow boxing or something for half the fight. But Melo, on the other hand, she's way too patient herself. In reality, I feel like nobody won this fight, but congrats to Melo for the win on that. Not much else to say. I got this fight incorrect, so at this point I was 1-1. After all that BS with Moras and Melo, we were treated to another entertaining bout between these two guys. As predicted, Emeev got the win and Zawada was having his moments, but you know, it was fairly evident that Emeev had the slight edge there. It did go the distance as I predicted would happen if Emeev won, so hopefully some of you placed a bet on that or at least took advantage of it. Zawada was tough though throughout the fight. At the end of the third round, he had a chance to take top position and somehow Emeev was able to turn it over and roll out of it. And I think that's what ended up solidifying the win for Emeev there. It kind of just showed that like Emeev it just had a bit more skill, you know, a bit more push, a bit more drive than Zawada did. So good on Emeev. I did get that one correct. So at that point, I had 2 correct picks and 1 incorrect pick. Okay, Wu versus Edwards. This fight was very interesting. There was a bit of back and forth, and we did see Edwards almost get that armbar in the first round. In fact, most of the first round was spent trying to get that armbar. Both fighters were patient, though, during that portion of the fight, and Wu was able to slip out of it. But it was clear that Edwards had more than one way to win this fight. Wu had her moments, and her striking was effective against Edwards, but she wasn't throwing punches in bunches or too much volume, which is one thing that prevented her from winning this fight. Edwards, on the other hand, she was super patient, accurate. She did start to tire out near the end of the third round, but she was hurting Wu with every punch and every strike. I'm not sure what to expect from Edwards moving forward against tougher competition, but for her first fight in the UFC, she looked great and really showcased her various skills. I did predict Edwards to win. I thought she was actually going to get it done in the first round, but she ended up going, I believe, to decision. So she won by decision. I predicted Edwards by the first round. I did get that prediction correct, technically, because I said she would win. So we're 3-1 at that point. Next up, Carlos Filipe versus Justin Tafa. Well, this started off a little scary for me because I had predicted Filipe to win, and Tafa was hitting him with some hard punches as well as some good kicks. But Filipe made it past the first round and started coming back in the second half of the fight overall. And things were getting crazy by the third. These two literally glued their foreheads together and just started striking and taking turns throwing punches and bunches. This was by far, in my opinion, like one of the best fights of the night as far as the action goes. For the prelims, actually it's probably the best fight and more action fight of the prelims themselves. And you know, it ended the prelims off with a high note. As I predicted, what would happen was that Tafa only had the first half of the fight to win, and as the fight went on, he would tire out, and that would give Carlos the opportunity to come back. And that's exactly literally what played out. You know, Tafa started winning early on, and then he started slowing down as the fight continued, and that's where Filipe had more moments because he was a lot quicker. You know, he had more energy than Tafa at that point. And I believe, like, it's not like Filipe took over the fight completely, but he did have that slight edge. You could tell later in the fight, Tafa was throwing fewer punches with more time and gaps in between his attempts for that. Filipe was slowing down, but not as badly, and his strikes were, you know, pushed with just as much power as they were early on in the fight. You know, Filipe took the win here by decision, and both guys put on a great show. I did have Filipe to win, so at that point, we were 4-1. Next up, we had Soriano and Todorovic to start off the main card of the night. And while my prediction of the winner was wrong, my prediction about the fight itself was bang on. The fight didn't last very long, but man, it was entertaining for the time we had to experience it. Props to Soriano, who brought that power. We knew he had it. And more props to Todorovic for just relentlessly continuing to spring back up and get up and grapple and defend in order to get his bearing backs, but it just wasn't happening. You could tell he was just out of it the whole time after that first hit that knocked him down. But Soriano, you know, he just rocked him with every punch he threw. He was patient. You could see Todorovic was not going to be able to continue unless he was saved by the bell. Now, he wasn't saved by the bell, but he was saved by the mouthpiece getting knocked out. because as we saw a few fight weeks ago, actually I think it was like a few months ago, someone else had their mouthpiece knocked out. I actually think it was also in Abu Dhabi, and it went between the octagon, and it actually ended up falling through the octagon to the bottom, and it took them forever to get that mouthpiece out. But in this case, it was lodged in the same in-between spot, but it didn't fall through. So what you would think Todorovic would do is just kind of wait, you know, let them figure it out, let time pass, get your bearings back together, you know, take deep breaths and just like get back into the game. But instead of doing that, Todorovic goes after his own mouthpiece, which was just the biggest mistake he could have made. You know, he could have made a comeback had he maybe had more time, but you know, he made the mistake of going after his own mouthpiece. And, you know, props to him, you know, showing his toughness on that and not caring about, you know, just wanting to keep the fight going and just being respectful to his, you know, opponent. But in that case, he really should have played the smarter game. And at the end of the day, that's what came back to bite him in the butt, because shortly after that, he got rocked again. And although he wasn't out, Herb Dean, you know, made the wise decision to call the fight and essentially saw that this guy has taken enough punishment. He's been rocked down like a few times and dropped a couple times. You know, we all can agree that that stoppage was fair. Good on Soriano for winning the fight, but that was my second wrong pick of the night. So at that point we are 4-2. Okay, so the next fight, I feel bad for this one. Buckley versus D Shirako. And the reason why I feel bad is because I'm not really hyped up about D Shirako, and if you go back and listen to my prediction, I just ream on him and how he's on his way out of the UFC and he doesn't belong there and Buckley's gonna get him. And my only concern was that Buckley wouldn't be able to maybe knock him out and the fight would drag on. But dang, you know what? Part of me, if you go back and watch the fight, I feel like that leg kick to the head was a little bit, not lucky, but just right time. You know, like every now and then someone gets caught, you know, and I think here Buckley got caught more than he did lose against a better opponent, if that makes sense. Now, the fight was for sure a jaw-dropping shocker of the night. Like, to me, like literally my jaw dropped, because I don't think anyone expected D Shirako to get that done. I don't even think D Shirako expected it to get that done, but that leg kick came up, hit Buckley at the right time, knocked him out. Going back to my prediction of this fight, you'll recall that I mentioned, yeah, D Shirako can win and anything can happen, but it's not likely. So I guess I made a point in one case, but I'm still not high on D Shirako. I hope he continues to have more performances like this. If so, then maybe they'll keep him in the UFC, but I do think he will stay, or I don't think he will stay in the UFC for very long. Like, once he starts fighting other opponents, he'll start losing again. You know, and if not, then great. You know, he should keep this up and maybe he'll stay in the UFC. Buckley, on the other end, you know, he's going to come back. He's still young and, you know, he'll take this as a learning experience. I'm still high on Buckley. I think in this case, he just got caught. So that was my third incorrect pick of the night. At that point, I am 4 correct picks and 3 incorrect picks. All right, our next fight of the night, and this one came back to bite me in the butt too, and I don't think I'm the only one that had issues on the main card as far as picks. The first 3 fights on the main card, I essentially, you know, like, I get them all incorrect. But in this fight, I wasn't as shocked, but I mean, I did have Ponzinibbio to win, and as the fight started, I expected him to be, you know, take his time. You know, he's going to be a little slower, warm up into the fight. I actually feel like Lee was looking a little hesitant. He's very jittery with his movement and strikes. It feels like he's kind of like unsure half the time, and is just kind of moving for the sake of moving. And his flow is kind of weird too. Just his fight style in general. I just feel like he's nervous or something, but I guess that's not the case. Ponzinibbio never really found his footing. He seemed a little static as well, and Lee was hitting him with some nice leg kicks and strikes, but they didn't seem like they were phasing Ponzinibbio too much. But you know, he also Jingliang, he didn't throw any major combos. Like, he was just throwing like 1 or 2 strikes at a time. And you know, that's one thing that bothers me about Jingliang, because he tends to do that a lot. However, in the video that I made my prediction, I said Jingliang's his only way to win is going to be if he knocks him out, and he finds that right shot at the right time, and he did. He totally did. Otherwise, he would have lost this one. And, although he's done well recently, I thought Ponzinibbio would come back strong. It turns out the layoff may have played a factor in this fight, but good on Jingliang for getting it done. And, I look forward to seeing who he fights next. But more importantly, I want to know what Ponzinibbio is going to do next. I wonder if he, I'm just curious to see how well he fights in his next fight. Maybe he just needed that one fight to warm up, and maybe he comes back strong. But let me know your thoughts on Ponzinibbio, because he looked a little, stiffer than I assumed he'd come back at for somebody who is, a fighter with a lot of experience. All right, next up, Carlos Condit versus Matt Brown. And, you guys know that I mentioned in the video, in the prediction video, that I don't know why either of these guys are still fighting. Neither of them are probably going to get a chance to go for the belt or anything like that. When we were watching them fight and they were putting on a good show, I totally went back to a nostalgic moment of classic UFC. And I don't know if any of you guys had that too, but I just felt like I was watching UFC from 10 years ago. It was great. So for that fact, I was happy with the fight. But, I wasn't too high on this fight in general, especially for my prediction. But, man, this was on par with most of the other fights on this card. It was just great. Both of these guys brought it, and we know they both have a lot of heart. I felt as though Brown was just keeping up with Condit, though, whereas Condit was just one step ahead. Even on on his back, Condit was way more active in that first round on his back, and Brown was puffing and huffing way earlier. I don't know if that's just something that Brown does. I've never noticed him do that, but early on in the fight, he seemed like he was just taking these deep breaths. I thought it was going to end early, but as predicted, it went to decision. The striking difference was insane, 88 to 36 strikes for Condit. Condit kept the pace and pressure, and props to Matt Brown for being 40 years old and keeping up with Condit. That being said, I'm still not sure if Condit is going to be able to continue this. However, he has looked good in his past couple fights, so we're going to give him the benefit of the doubt here, and I hope his win streak continues, and I hope, he's made some changes to his game that have obviously benefited him. Beating Matt Brown is a good win for Carlos Condit, but now here's where there's a fork in the road for me. Did Carlos Condit fight really well because he was beating an older Matt Brown? Or did he fight well because Carlos Condit is back? I want to know what you guys think about that theory, because I kind of have a feeling that, Carlos is still slightly suspect to me. I need to see him fight somebody that's maybe younger and obviously higher in the rankings than a Matt Brown. So let's see how Carlos's next fight goes before we all jump on the Carlos Condit bandwagon again. That being said, I did predict that fight correctly for both the actual winner as well as the method of victory. So I called it by decision, and it went to decision. All right. Main event of the evening. Oh man, this was nuts. This reminded me of Max Holloway versus Ortega, but I want to discuss something completely separate from this. This is something that I was thinking about throughout the whole fight. But before we get into it, let me just address and give props to Calvin Kattar. I think he just stole the zombie title from Korean Zombie, for sure. We got to call him Calvin the Zombie Kattar. We're taking that away from Zombie. Sorry, Zombie. But, I've never seen somebody do that kind of last like that, like Calvin Kattar did. That was insane. I'm shocked his coaches let him continue to fight. I cannot believe he wouldn't go down either. I'm actually disappointed at his coaching staff. I can't believe they made him take all of that damage for what? He had already lost the fight by the 4th round, and yet they continued to cause him to push, assuming maybe he was going to get a knockout on Max Holloway. If he was going to get the knockout, he would have gotten in the 1st or 2nd, not in the 4th or 5th where he's lost most of his energy. At the end of the day, for every 20 strikes Max threw, Calvin threw 1 or 2. Now I want to discuss my theory here. I feel like Max did what he does best in picking him apart. And when I watched the fight, I couldn't help but think that the whole time Max was thinking, this is my practice run for Volkanovski 3. By the way, did you guys see Volkanovski's tweet during the fight? Even he appreciated this shit. I still don't think Volkanovski wants to fight him. And to be quite honest, Volkanovski could say whatever he wants, but At the end of the day, if you don't want to fight someone and your excuse is that you fought him twice before and it was decisive, it wasn't. Volkanovski, your own mother thinks you lost that fight. Trust me. Not that I speak to your mom, but trust me. Your own mother thinks you lost that fight. I can guarantee that. If she tells you otherwise, she's just being nice. We definitely have to see Holloway versus Volkanovski 3 at some point. I wouldn't be mad if even Volkanovski fought somebody else first. And if he beat him, then Max can, come in and fight the next fight. Like, we don't have to see it right away, but I would want to see it as Max's next fight. I'm just not so concerned if it's Volkanovski's next fight. You know what I mean? So let Volkanovski fight someone else if he wants to. After he beats him, you want to beat the best, right? There's no one else. There's no one else in that division that's as good as Max Holloway. And I think more than anything, Volkanovski is afraid and he knows his time is limited with his belt. Based on what I saw tonight, Max has elevated his game to a whole nother level. Like before, you could say Volkanovski and Max were on the same level. Like they're at this top echelon. Max is now like just above that. Like he shows a lot more variety. He's got different skill sets that Volkanovski just doesn't have. And I think one thing, if you notice now, after the first Volkanovski fight, Max has changed his stance to be not as wide. He used to have his front legs so far ahead. And in the last Volkanovski fight, he brought it in more, and in this fight, he brought it in more. Like he brought that lead leg in more, which removed sort of that kicking aspect that was really beating him up in the first Volkanovski fight. And as I mentioned in my prediction, that although Kattar is great and he's a great fighter, and he's worked his way to the top, he's not on that level of Max Holloway or Alex Volkanovski. He's just not there. And the only thing anyone had to do to figure this out is to look at the fight history to see the proof. The proof is in the fight history. And Calvin Kattar has had some great fights, and yeah, he's had some knockouts and stuff, but who? Against who? And then you look at Max Holloway's history, and even the people Max has lost against, it's the top of the top. So I have no idea why people were saying that Kattar has this great chance. I saw it from the beginning. I mean, I was kind of torn a little bit, like maybe Kattar can, close that gap and maybe he can knock him out. But then when you look at Max's history and you realize, hey, this guy hasn't been knocked out since like 2011. Or I don't know, like 10 years ago, 8 years ago, he's probably not going to get knocked out. And the only opportunity that Kattar would have had to knock him out would have been in the first 2 or 3 rounds. After the third round, I was like, had even Max not, dominated him like that, by the time it got to the third round, I would have been very comfortable knowing that Kattar has lost all his chances to win this fight and that Max would pick him apart over 5 rounds, which, dude, he picked him apart over 2 rounds. Like by round 2 or 3, I'm like, oh, it's done. It's done. So that being said, I want you guys to watch that fight again. I promise you it was a practice fight for Max to implement some new adjustments to his game for a third Volkanovski fight to ensure that he wins their next fight. Let me know if and what you guys think and when we'll see that fight happen, because go watch that fight again. Max was treating Calvin Kattar like he was a Volkanovski mimic. He was like his Volkanovski punching bag for this evening. It was like a sparring session. Go watch it. He was trying different things. He was fighting like he was fighting against Volkanovski specifically. I think literally Max took this fight knowing that, hey, I'm going to take this fight as a precursor and I'm going to implement stuff that I want to implement against Volkanovski. I'm going to fight that fight again and show that I am the best in the world. And that's exactly what he did. Volkanovski can say what he wants, but it really just bothers me that he won't take this third fight, and he uses that one excuse. It's just irritating. So that being said, guys, that is the end of this recap video. Also, the last video I did, we did the breakdown quickly. And although I usually don't do that in my other videos, I actually like the way it turned out. So I think we're going to do these breakdowns quicker. I'm going to find a way to just manage to, cut 10-15 minutes off of the videos. So these videos, the full prediction videos, will be about 30 minutes. And then what I'm going to do is, as I usually do, after I've posted the full prediction, I will post every individual prediction on their own. So for those of you who don't want to watch the full video and you just want to catch predictions, you know, the odd one based on what you're betting maybe, or I don't know what, you know, you could do that as well. That being said, guys, if you do appreciate the content on this channel, if you do want to throw me some support, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. If you don't want to subscribe yet, you kind of want to wait and see what I'm all about, that's great too. But do me another favor, hit that like button. And if you're already a subscriber, I really appreciate it. I just hope to build this community. You know, not many people really do fight prediction videos, and you know, we're one small community, and I just appreciate talking about fights with all of you. So do me a favor, in the comments below even, let me know who you got on these fights. You know, let me know who you had for this card, for example. How did you guys do? Did you know, get your winnings? Did you lose this one? Let me know how you guys feel. Other than that, we should see you definitely for the Saturday card. I'm going to post that video most likely on Thursday. And if I can do for the Wednesday card, I'll try my best, but no real promises there. I am the MMA Hoodie. Thanks for watching, guys. Peace out.